But the works of mankind, some are good, but others are evil. By their works those who speak lying blasphemies are recognized. My children, every just deed, every just decree, every just decision, I have checked out and written down, just as the Lord commanded me. In all these things I have discovered differences. For just as one year is more honorable than another year, so one person is more honorable than another person. Some because of much property, some again because of wisdom of the heart, some again because of singular intelligence, some again because of craftiness, some again because of silence of the lips, some again because of purity, some again because of strength, some again because of handsome appearance, some again because of youth, some again because of a penetrating mind, some again because of bodily appearance, some again because of abundant feelings. Even though these things are heard on every side, nevertheless there is no one better than he who fears God. He will be the most glorious of that age. The Lord with his own two hands created mankind. In a facsimile of his own face, both small and great, the Lord created them. Whoever insults a person's face insults the face of a king, and treats the face of the Lord with repugnance. He who treats with contempt the face of any person treats the face of the Lord with contempt. He who expresses anger to any person without provocation will reap anger in the great judgment. He who spits on any person's face insultingly will reap the same at the day of the Lord's great judgment. Happy is the person who does not direct his heart with malice toward any person, but who helps the offended and the condemned, and lifts up those who have been crushed, and shows compassion on the needy, because on the day of the great judgment every weight and every measure and every set of scales will be just as they are in the market. That is to say, each will be weighed in the balance, and each will stand in the market, and each will find out his own measure, and in accordance with that measurement each shall receive his own reward. If anyone is prompt in performing a good offering in front of the face of the Lord, then the Lord will also be prompt to accept it on his account, and he will be prompt in his compensations. If anyone makes lamps numerous in front of the face of the Lord, then the Lord will make his treasure storehouse numerous in the highest kingdom. Does the Lord demand bread or lamps or sheep or oxen or any kind of sacrifices at all? That is nothing. But God demands pure hearts. By means of all those things he tests people's hearts. Listen, my people, and give heed to the utterance of my lips. If to an earthly king someone should bring some kind of gifts, if he is thinking treachery in his heart, and the king perceives it, will not the king be angry with him, and will not he spurn his gifts? Will the king not hand him over for judgment? If any person seduces another person into untruth by fair speech, but his heart is evil, will he not be conscious of the treachery of his heart? And will he not judge himself in himself, whether or not his judgment be true? How his untruthfulness is obvious to everyone. When the Lord sends out the great light, in that light there will be true judgment, without favoritism, for true and untrue alike, and no one will be able to hide himself then. And now, my children, place the thoughts in your hearts, and give heed to the sayings of your Father, which I am making known to you from the lips of the Lord. Receive these books in your Father's handwriting, and read them. For the books are many, and in them you will learn all the deeds of the Lord. There have been many books since the beginning of creation, and there will be until the end of the age. But not one of them will make things as plain to you as the books in my handwriting. If you hold on firmly to them, you will not sin against the Lord. For there is no other besides the Lord, neither in heaven, nor on the earth, nor in the deepest places, nor in the one foundation. The Lord is the one who laid the foundations upon the unknown things, and he is the one who spread out the heavens above the visible and the invisible things. The earth he solidified above the waters, and the waters he based upon the unfixed things. And he alone created the uncountable creatures. And who is it who has counted the dust of the earth, or the sand of the sea, or the drops of rain, or the dew of the clouds, or the blowing of the wind? Who is it who has plaited the land and the sea together with indissoluble bonds, who caused the unknowable beauty of the stars to spring forth from the fire, and with them has adorned the sky, and put in the midst of them the sun, so that he might travel along the 7 celestial circles, which are appointed with 182 thrones, so that he might descend to the shortest day, and once more 182, so that he might descend to the longest day. He also has 2 great thrones, where he pauses when he turns around in this direction and in the other direction, higher than the lunar thrones. From the month Sivan, from the 17th day he descends until the month of Thevet, and from the 17th day of Thevet he ascends. In this way the sun moves along all the celestial circles. When he comes close to the earth, then the earth is merry, and makes its fruit grow. But when he goes away, then the earth laments, and the trees and all fruits have no productivity. All this is by measurement, and by the most precise measurement of the hours. He fixed it by measure, by his own wisdom, that is everything visible and invisible. From the invisible things and the visible things, he created all the visible things, and he himself is invisible. Thus I am making it known to you, my children, and you must hand over all the books to your children throughout all your generations, and to your relatives, and among all nations who are discerning, so that they may fear God, and so that they may accept them. They will be more enjoyable than any delightful food on earth. They will read them and adhere to them. But those who are undiscerning, and who do not understand the Lord, neither fear God nor accept them, but renounce them, and regard themselves burdened by them. A terrible judgment is awaiting them. Happy is the person who puts their yoke on and carries it around, for he will plow on the great day of judgment. I am swearing to you, my children, but look, I am not swearing by my oath at all, neither by heaven, nor by earth, nor by any other creature which the Lord created. For the Lord said, there is no oath in me, nor any unrighteousness, but only truth. So if there is no truth in human beings, Then let them make an oath by means of the words, yes, yes, or if it should be the other way round, no, no. I make an oath to you, yes, yes, that even before any person was in his mother's womb, individually a place he prepared for each soul, as well as a set of scales and a measurement of how long he intends him to live in this world, so that each person may be investigated with it. Yes, children, do not deceive yourselves, for ahead of the time a place has been prepared there for each human soul. I have set down the achievements of each person in the writings, and no one can hide himself who was born on the earth, nor can his achievement be kept secret. I see everything as if in a mirror. Now therefore, my children, in patience and meekness abide for the number of your days, so that you may inherit the final, endless age that is coming. Every assault, every persecution, and every evil word endure for the sake of the Lord. If the injury and persecution happen to you on account of the Lord, then endure them all for the sake of the Lord. If you are able to take vengeance with 100-fold revenge, do not take vengeance, neither on one who is close to you, nor one who is distant from you. For the Lord is the one who takes vengeance, and he will be the avenger for you on the day of the great judgment, so that there may be no acts of retribution here from human beings, but only from the Lord. Let each of you put up with the loss of his gold and silver on account of a brother, so that he may receive a full treasury in that age. Stretch out your hands to the needy in accordance with your ability. Do not hide your silver in the earth. Help a believer in affliction, and then affliction will not find you in your treasuries and in the time of your work. Every kind of afflictive and burdensome yoke, if it comes upon you for the sake of the Lord, carry everything, and thus you will find your reward on the day of judgment. In the morning of the day, in the middle of the day, and in the evening of the day, it is good to go to the Lord's temple on account of the glory of your Creator. For every kind of spirit glorifies him, and every kind of creature, visible and invisible, praises him. Happy is the person who opens his lips for praise of the Lord, and praises him with his whole heart. And cursed is every person who opens his heart for insulting, insults the poor, slanders his neighbor, because that person slanders God. Happy is the person who opens their lips both blessing and praising God. Cursed is the person who opens their lips for cursing and blasphemy before the face of the Lord all their days. Happy is the person who blesses all the works of the Lord. Cursed is the person who despises any of the Lord's creatures. Happy is the person who looks carefully to the raising of the works of their own hand. Cursed is the person who looks, is jealous, and works to destroy the works of another. Happy is the person who preserves the foundations of his most ancient fathers, made firm from the beginning. Cursed is the person who breaks down the institutions of his ancestors and fathers. Happy is the person who cultivates the love of peace. Cursed is the person who disturbs those who are peaceful by means of love. Happy is he, even though he does not speak peace with his tongue, nevertheless in his heart there is peace toward all. Cursed is the person who with his tongue speaks peace, but in his heart there is no peace, but a sword. For all these things will be weighed in the balances, and exposed in the books on the great day of judgment. So now, my children, do not say, Our Father is with God, and he will stand in front of God for us, and he will pray for us concerning our sins. For there is no helper there, not even for one person who has sinned. See how I have written down all the deeds of every person before the creation, and I am writing down what is done among all persons forever. No one can contradict my handwriting, because the Lord sees all the evil thoughts of mankind, how vain they are, where they lie in the treasuries of the heart. So now, my children, pay close attention to all your father's sayings, whatever I say to you, so that you will not be sorry, saying, Our father warned us at that time about this ignorance of ours, so that there may be peace for you in your inheritance. The books which I have given you, do not hide them. To all who wish, recite them, so that they may know about the extremely marvelous works of the Lord. Behold, my children, the prescribed day has arrived. The appointed time confronts me. It urges me on to my departure from you. The angels who wish to go with me are standing on the earth, waiting for what they have been told. For tomorrow morning I shall go up to the highest Jerusalem, into my eternal inheritance. That is why I am commanding you, my children, so that you may do all that is well-pleasing before the face of the Lord. Methuselah answered his father and said, What is pleasing in your eyes, Father, so that we may prepare food in front of your face, so that you may bless our houses, your children, and all your household, and your people will be glorified by you. Thus, after that you will go away as the Lord wills. Enoch answered his son, Methuselah, and said, Listen, child, since the time when the Lord anointed me with the ointment of his glory, food is not come into me, and earthly pleasure my soul does not remember, nor do I desire anything earthly. But, my child Methuselah, call all your brothers, all the members of your households, and the elders of the people, so that I may speak to them and depart, as it has been predetermined for me. Methuselah hurried and summoned his brothers, Regem, Rimmon, Ucan, Kermion, Gaidad, and the elders of all the people. He summoned them before the face of his father Enoch, and they prostrated themselves in front of his face. And Enoch looked at them, and he blessed them, and he spoke to them, saying, Listen to me, my children, today. In the days of our father Adam, the Lord came down unto the earth on account of Adam. He inspected all his creatures, which he himself created in the beginning of the 1,000 ages, and went after all those he had created Adam. The Lord summoned all the animals of the earth, all the reptiles of the earth, and all the birds that fly in the air, and he brought them all before the face of our father Adam, so that he may pronounce names for all the quadrupeds. And Adam named everything that lives on the earth. The Lord appointed him over everything as king. He subjected everything to him in subservience under his hand, both the dumb and the deaf, to be commanded, and for submission, and for every servitude, so also to every human being. The Lord created mankind to be the Lord of all his possessions, And the Lord will not judge a single animal soul for the sake of man, but human souls he will judge for the sake of the souls of their animals. For the souls of all the beasts there is in the great age a single place, a single paddock, and a single pasture. Just as every human soul is according to number, so also it is with animal souls. And not a single soul which the Lord has created will perish until the great judgment. And every kind of animal soul will accuse the human beings who have fed them badly. He who acts lawlessly with the soul of an animal acts lawlessly with his own soul. For a person brings one of the clean animals to make sacrifice on account of sin, so that he may have healing for his soul. If he brings it to the sacrifice from clean animals and birds and cereals, then there is healing for that person, and he will heal his soul. Everything that has been given to you for food, bind by 4 legs, so as to perform the healing properly. There is healing, and he will heal his soul. He who puts to death any kind of animal without bonds puts his own soul to death, and acts lawlessly with his own flesh. He who does any kind of harm to any kind of animal in secret, it is an evil custom, and he acts lawlessly with his own soul. He who does harm to a human soul creates harm for his own soul, and there is for him no healing in his flesh, nor any forgiveness for eternity. He who carries out the murder of a human soul causes the death of his own soul, and murders his own body, and there is no healing for him for eternity. He who lies in wait for a person with any kind of trap, he himself will be entangled in it, and there is no healing for him for eternity. He who lies in wait for a person in judgment, his retribution will not be slackened in the great judgment for eternity. He who acts perversely or says anything against any soul, righteousness will not be created for him for eternity. So now, my children, keep your hearts from every unrighteous deed which the Lord hates. Just as a person makes requests for his own soul from God, in the same manner let him behave toward every living soul, because in the great age I will find out everything. Many shelters have been prepared for people, good ones for the good, but bad ones for the bad, many without number. Happy is he who enters into the blessed houses, for in the bad one there is no rest, nor returning. Listen, my children, old and young. A person, when he places a vow upon his heart to bring gifts before the face of the Lord from his own works, and his hands did not make that thing, then the Lord will turn away his face from the works of his hands, and he will not find the works of his hands. But even if his hands did make it, but his heart is complaining, the illness of his heart will not cease. Making complaint without ceasing, he shall not even have a single benefit. Happy is the person who in his suffering brings his gifts with faith before the face of the Lord and sacrifices them, and receives remission of sins. But if before the time comes he should retract his vows, there is no repentance for him. If the time specified elapses, and then he does it, he will not be accepted, because every delay causes a scandal. A person, when he clothes the naked or gives his bread to the hungry, then he will obtain a reward from God. If his heart should murmur, it is a twofold evil that he creates for himself. It is a loss that he creates in respect to that which he gives, and he will not have any obtaining or remuneration because of it. The poor man, when his heart is satisfied or his body is clothed, and he performs an act of contempt, then he will ruin all his endurance of poverty. He will not obtain the reward for his good deeds. For the Lord detests every kind of contemptuous person, and every person who makes himself out to be great, and every untruthful word stimulated by injustice. It will be cut off with the blade of the sword of death and thrown into the fire. It will burn, and this cutting out has no healing unto eternity. When Enoch had spoken these words to his sons, to the princes of the people, and all his people, near and far, having heard that the Lord was calling Enoch, they consulted one another, saying, Let us go, let us kiss Enoch. And they came together, up to 2,000 men, and they arrived at the place at Cuzan, where Enoch was, and his sons. The elders of the people and all the community came and prostrated themselves and kissed Enoch. They said to him, O our father Enoch, may you be blessed by the Lord, the eternal King. Now bless your sons and all the people, so that we may be glorified in front of your face today. For you will be glorified in front of the face of the Lord for eternity, because you are the one whom the Lord chose in preference to all the people upon the earth. And he appointed you to be the one who makes a written record of all his creation, visible and invisible, the helper of your own household. And Enoch answered his people, saying to all of them, Listen, my children, before anything existed, and before ever any created thing was created, the Lord created his whole creation, visible and invisible. However, how much time there was that went by. Understand how, on account of this, he constituted man in his own form, in accordance with a similarity. He gave him eyes to see, ears to hear, heart to think, reason to argue. The Lord set everything forth for the sake of man, and he created the whole creation for his sake, and he divided it into times. From time he established years. From the years he settled months. From the months he settled the days. From the days he settled 7. And it is in those he settled the hours, and the hours he measured exactly, so that a person might think about time, so that he might count the years, the months, the days, the hours, the perturbations, the beginnings, the endings, and that he might keep count of his own life from the beginning unto death, think about his sins, so that he might write down his achievement, both good and evil. For no achievement is hidden in front of the Lord, so that every person might know his own achievement, so that he might not transgress any one of his commandments at all, so that he might hold on to what my hand has written, from generation to generation. When the whole of creation, visible and invisible, which the Lord has created, shall come to an end, then each person will go to the Lord's great judgment. Then all time will perish. Afterwards there will be neither years, nor months, nor days, nor hours. They will be dissipated. After that they will not be reckoned. They will constitute a single age. All the righteous who escape from the Lord's great judgment will be collected together into the great age. The great age will come about for the righteous, and it will be eternal. After that there will be among them neither weariness, nor sickness, nor affliction, nor worry, nor want, nor debilitation, nor night, nor darkness, but they will have a great light, a great indestructible light, paradise, great and incorruptible. For everything corruptible will pass away, and the incorruptible will come into being, and it will be the shelter of the eternal residences. Now therefore, sons, guard your souls from every kind of injustice, such as the Lord hates. Walk in front of his face with fear, trembling, and worship him alone. To the true God bow down, not to idols, which have no voice. Every kind of oblation present justly in front of the face of the Lord, but what is unjust the Lord detests. For the Lord sees everything that a person thinks in his heart, then reason advises him. For every thought is presented before the Lord, who made the earth firm and settled creatures upon it. If you look upon the sky, behold, the Lord is there, for the Lord created the sky. If you look upon the earth, then the Lord is there, for the Lord founded the earth and placed upon it all his creatures. If you contemplate upon the depths of the ocean, and on all that is beneath the earth, then the Lord is there, because the Lord created all things. Do not bow down to anything created by man, nor anything created by God, so committing apostasy against the Lord of all creation. For no kind of deed is hidden from the face of the Lord. Walk, my children, in long-suffering, in meekness, in honesty, in affliction, in distress, in faithfulness, in truth, in hope, in weakness, in derision, in assaults, in temptation, in deprivation, having love for one another until you go out from this age of suffering, so that you may become inheritors of the never-ending age. How happy are the righteous who shall escape the Lord's great judgment, for they will be made to shine 7 times brighter than the sun. For in that age everything is estimated 7-fold: light, darkness, food, enjoyment, misery, paradise, tortures, fire, frost, etc. All this I have put down in writing, so that you may read it and think about it. And when Enoch had spoken to his people, the Lord sent the gloom onto the earth. It became dark and covered the men who were standing and talking with Enoch. The angels hurried, grasped Enoch, and carried him up to the highest heaven, where the Lord received him and made him stand in front of his face for eternity. Then the darkness departed from the earth, and it became light. The people looked, and they understood how Enoch was taken away. They glorified God and went away to their homes.